Welcome back to Operation Freedom, folks. I'm Dr. Dave Janda, broadcasting from our ancillary bunker, linked to our main Freedom Bunker in People's Republic of Ann Arbor, here for you on Sundays from 2 to 5 Eastern, live 24/7. DaveJanda.com with extra shows, content, guests, analysis, archives to all of our shows. Stop on by. You will never be disappointed when you go to that website, but you will be educated and empowered. Speaking of empowering people, my next guest, Major General Paul Vallely, is someone who has inspired and empowered millions of people around our country and around the world. Why? Because he delivers truth and facts and data that the bought-off lamestream fake media, tentacle of the globalist cult, do not want you to know about. You know, when most folks retire from the military with the rank of Major General, they go to the beach or they go to the river to fish for trout. Well, not General Vallely. He stepped forward, put his life on the line, still does to this day, of giving you information that others will never provide. For those of you not familiar with Major General Paul Vallely, he retired from the United States Army as Deputy Commanding General of the United States Army in Pacific. General Vallely graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point and was commissioned in the Army, serving a distinguished career of 32 years. He was a graduate of the Infantry School, Ranger and Airborne Schools, Jumpmaster School, and commanded General Staff School and the Industrial College of the Armed Forces and the Army War College. He has over 15 years' experience in special operations, psychological, and civil military operations. And in addition to that, as I mentioned, he never really retired. He just changed his location of his operations. He founded a fantastic organization, Stand Up America US. So the website, don't forget the US in the website, standupamericaus.org. He is also a fantastic author. He has 2 new books out, Invisible Treason and Beyond Treason. I encourage you to go to his website, standupamericaus.org. I encourage you to get these books because they will provide you information that puts you years ahead of the curve. It is my honor to welcome back to the Operation Freedom Show platform, General Paul Vallely. Paul, welcome back.
Well, thank you, Dave. What a nice introduction.
Well, thank you, Paul, for everything you do. Now, Paul, educate our listeners on the books, Invisible Treason and Beyond Treason. When they set those books down, what are the goals and objectives that you have that you want the readers to walk away with?
Well, when we start tracking what was happening with some elected officials, we'll mention some names a little later, plus organizations in the United States like the CIA, FBI, Department of Justice, we started examining treasonous activities. So we went back to the Constitution and we defined in the first 2 chapters what treason is as defined by our forefathers, but how it has changed so much here in 2024 of what individuals have been doing in aiding and abetting the enemies of the United States, as well as institutions. Our forefathers never pictured institutions would be complicit with individuals and deep state operatives to conduct treason against America, working and allowing the cartels to conduct an invasion of the United States. Mm-hmm. Biden is the most guilty, as well as Obama, of treason, changing America forever with activities that are illegal against the American people, against the Constitution. And then we go into details by specifically stating why they have committed treason and why the likes like of a General Milley, who, in my opinion, is one general that should be tried and convicted of treason for what he's done. But when you look at the surrender in Afghanistan by the Biden administration, aiding and abetting the Taliban, billions of dollars of U.S. equipment, aiding and abetting the enemy. And it's all there. It's definable. So what we try to do is connect the dots for the American people by stating what treason is and who's conducted it.
Paul, in your introduction, I mentioned that you're a graduate of the Industrial College of the Armed Forces and the Army War College. And in those colleges, I believe one of the important lessons is that know your enemy. Know your enemy's capabilities, know your enemy's weaknesses, but know your enemy inside out. General Patton used to devour everything. He would read everything about his adversaries, whether it was Rommel or whoever it might be. And Patton claimed that that was one of the secret sauces in his success, and knowing how his adversary thought. You know, Paul, one of the big problems I see is that when the freedom movement looks at our adversaries, that the globalist movement, they attribute a lot of their fiendish activities on the globalist side. They say, well, it's just an accident this is occurring, or it's just a coincidence, or it's occurring because they're incompetent. No, Paul, I contend that one of the big failures of the freedom movement is they do not understand how inherently evil and sinister and diabolical our adversary is. Am I off on that?
Yeah, and the focus, again, Dave, on domestic people, citizens of the United States, Mayorkas, the Department of Homeland Security is another one we name. But they're so guilty. Of course, none of them will be tried for treason under this administration. We'll have to wait for Donald Trump. But these people have to be taken to task for how they've dismantled our Constitution, our laws, dismantled the effectiveness of our military, for example, of our intelligence services, politicizing and militarizing the FBI and Department of Justice to erase extreme whiteness against the white people of this country. And that all started and was initiated for the most part by Barack Obama, who's half white, half black, never talks about his white mother, but yet he has dissected the black community, not brought it together, but has divided this country. And of course, Biden, the puppet, has gone along with it, along with all the other puppets that are in the administration. But, you know, we're facing very sophisticated people like Putin. Putin plays a high game of chess. So does Xi. The other leaders that look at the United States now as crumbling, as well as the NATO countries, European countries. And so we see complete dismantling of institutions in the West. And Putin and Xi, of course, see that. And they're going to take advantage of it, just like Iran will take advantage of it to a great degree. But I'm just worried about and focused on the next 7 months, Dave. That's what's critical. What are we going to do about America? Are you going to stand up in your towns and counties? Are the sheriffs going to protect you against this criminal activity? Criminal activity, what I consider even at the district attorney level, at the mayoral level in some of our cities. They should be arrested for incentivizing crime, like in New York, Philadelphia, Seattle, Washington, Los Angeles, San Francisco. These people have to be held accountable at some point in time, I would think.
And Paul, speaking domestically, there are many people who say, well, if it really hits the fan, the military will be here to protect us. Well, Paul, you also mentioned that, you know, there has been a degradation, willful degradation of the military. And it also brings me back to part of your introduction, why you said that you're a graduate of West Point. Recently, Paul, West Point removed the words, quote, duty, honor, and country, end quote, from its mission statement and replaced them with the more generic words, quote, Army values, end quote.
Yeah, which is
Paul, your take.
Well, that's right, and that's why we formed the MacArthur Society last year. That's formed by graduates of West Point. STARS has been, as they call it, has been formed by the Air Force Academy, and you have the Calvert Group at Annapolis, the Naval Academy. So us graduates are standing up against this wokeness that is infiltrated into our academies, and left-wing instructors in the academies now that teaching CRT, DEI, and all this other crap And so we're in trouble all the way from the top in the military all the way down. Trump, when elected, is going to have to replace all of those generals because they've all been affected by the wokeness of the Biden and Obama administrations.
And Paul, you identified this invasion force that has been coming through our borders, and every state is a border state because there's an international port of entry in every state, and in particular on the southern border. And you presented a plan to the Pentagon in the Trump administration because of your kind of ahead of the game approach, saying, look, this is a problem. This is a huge problem. This is what we need to do. Educate our listeners in what that plan entailed, what the Trump administration did, and obviously the Biden administration has done nothing with that plan. Educate our listeners on that front.
Well, the plan was called Operation Sinaloa, after the Sinaloa area in Mexico, where the main 5 to 6 cartels operate from, the 3 contiguous provinces down there. And so we gave the plan to Trump. He executed one part of it, which was the defensive plan. More barriers, restricting who was coming across, and strengthening the Department of Homeland Security, for example, and the Border Patrol people, and ICE. And then, of course, Biden did away with all of that in his first few days in office. But the second part we advised, you have to take out the genesis. Where is the problem being created? Who is the enemy here? And, of course, it's the cartels. Look at the thousands of pounds, ounces, whatever, added all up of fentanyl that's come in and killed many Americans. Thousands of Americans. Maybe 100,000 to 200,000. I don't even have the count anymore. Plus sex trafficking. Plus infiltrating their agents that have been working, by the way, with the Chinese Communist Party. And as you may have heard, we've had over 25,000 Chinese come across our border. 25,000. Where are they? Where are they going? What are they up to? Well, you can believe that many of them are agents of the Chinese Communist Party who will conduct operations against our electrical grid system, our water sources, our food supply, and so on. And so you can expect many things to happen within the next 7 months here in America, but you have to go on offense. So we outlined a military operation to take down the cartels, and we could do it in 7 days. They're out of business in 7 days. Treasury takes them out of business on the monetary side, on the movement of currency around the world. But when you have an enemy, you have to identify it. But nobody has picked up on this from the plan that we submitted. No one has said, yes, this is an invasion of America. The generals and admirals, by their oath, are supposed to protect America and protect our borders from external sources, external threats, and they're not doing it. Not one general has stood up on active duty and said, we've got to conduct operations against the cartels. And, of course, Congress, the congressmen and senators think, and Biden, of course, think, well, you got to legislate it. This doesn't take legislation. It takes positive leadership and action to take down an enemy.
And Paul, folks, we're speaking with Major General Paul Vallely, StandUpAmericaUS.org. Paul, as I mentioned, you presented that plan, Operation Sinaloa, to the Trump administration. Is also there for the Biden administration. The Trump administration's picked up some of the defensive side that you spoke about, but really picked up none of the offensive side. And, of course, Biden has done neither defense nor offense. Paul,
that's correct.
Why, with the Trump administration, did they not pick up the offensive side and even more of the defensive side of Operation Sinaloa? Are they all blackmailed? Are they all compromised? Are they why?
Well, you still had the woke generals like Milley and most of the 4-stars who weren't backing Trump. They were influenced by Obama when they were colonels, and they were promoted on up. So all of this hierarchy of 3- and 4-star generals did not support Trump, but should have come and said, President Trump, not only do we have to conduct offensive operations to protect our borders And by the way, the borders are also all these airplane flights that are coming in with thousands, over 300,000 being spread across the United States. And so the ports, they're all entry points for these illegal border crossers and agents. But the generals were negligent and not advising the president, President Trump. We have to conduct operations against the cartels, just like we may against other enemies that are conducting operations against the United States. We may have to defend Taiwan from the Chinese takeover of Taiwan. But where are the innovative generals? Where are the Pattons? Where are the MacArthurs? They're not around. They don't exist. That's why we're advising now a whole new military for President Trump when he takes over, and I'll be happy to send that plan to you. We have it in a draft mode right now, but basically it awakens President Trump that he has to take action to rebuild our military into a viable force.
Paul, many people believe the cartels are so well-funded, so operationally sound, so weaponized, that they cannot be taken down. And if they are taken down, it would take many years. That is, in fact, not true, is it?
No, it's not true. If we had the right generals, brigades, in other words, I would take the 2nd Armored Division, for example. I think they're Fort Hood, Texas. I would move that tank division along the border. I'd close everything coming in. You can do that overnight. It's a 4 or 5 hour move from Fort Hood, Texas. You can put the Marines that are located in California, for example, move them to the California-San Diego area. We have units in Arizona. So we could close the border down. At the same time, we can conduct offensive special ops operations against the cartels. Attack them at 2 o'clock in the morning, surround them, completely destroy their nests where they're living there in the Sinaloa tri-provincial area of Mexico.
And Paul, how long would that offensive operation take where you could decapitate the cartels?
7 days.
7 days?
Yep.
Paul, has anyone in Congress come to you and said, General Vallely, show us this operation that could be done offensively to take down these cartels? Has anyone in Congress come to you?
Not one. And we've sent it, by the way, to a variety of many senators and congressmen. None of them are afraid to be warriors and stand up and say, listen, we've got an enemy on our borders. It's the cartels. Mexico wants us to give them $20 billion to help out. Can you believe that? Trump said the other day we'll give them a penny. But the Mexican government's totally owned by the cartels. Anybody can tell you that understands that situation there.
Well, Paul, the question I have then is, what are these congressmen afraid of? And, you know, are they, wait, could it be that these congressmen are benefiting financially from the cartels, and that's why they won't go after the cartels?
Who knows where the trace of money goes? We know that some politicians or campaigns and PACs have been infiltrated with cartel dollars. We know that from the situation in Arizona. But no, they're not warriors. Nobody's a warrior. Nobody will stand up and say, my God, generals, in the hearings, why don't you have a plan to take down the cartels who are responsible for fostering the invasion of America, not only with drugs and weapons, but also with people? These people coming across the border are paying the cartels to come across to help them. I mean, this is a well-financed operation. But not one congressman, not one senator, not one general, nobody has come up and say we got to conduct offensive operations. I had one person reply and said, well, that's a cross-border operation. I said, yeah. I said, so is Iraq, so is Afghanistan, so is Syria.
So is Ukraine.
A cross-border operation. Yeah. And this was the military guy. Oh, we can't do that. Yeah, well, why did we do it in Afghanistan? Why did we do it in Iraq? Yeah? I mean, it's ridiculous.
And unfortunately, Paul, as you outlined, because they haven't taken action, it's destroying our country on so many different levels, whether it's the human trafficking, drug trafficking, weapons trafficking. It's a destruction of the fabric of our country, but also a destruction of the safety and security of every American in every state.
Well, look at the young girls being murdered by these illegals coming across. Members of gangs out of El Salvador, Venezuela, very well organized. They're total evil people. Rape, a number of women have been raped coming across the border, and attempted rapes and murders in the United States. We know about that. But yet, nobody will take up arms against the cartels. Nobody. Not one person in our government. Not one general, not one admiral, not one colonel.
So then our listeners are peering at the radio right now, and they're saying, all right, well, if these people are not willing to do it, who should be?
They need to call back about 4 to 6 of us retired generals to do it.
What's that?
They need to recall 4 to 6 retired generals that I know that would do it. And by the way, a general can be called back to active duty at any time.
So let's say you get called back, Paul.
Right.
How long does it take for you to crack heads?
30 days. 1 month. 1 month we can put together the right people to do the job. They're there.
So once you get the right people, give it another 2 weeks, and what's happening down south, what's happening in every border state, all of a sudden turns to vapor.
That's exactly right. I mean, we have the capability militarily to do about everything we want to, all the way from small arms up to nuclear weapons. We have the capability of trained people in our special operation forces that we can use by helicopter, by airborne operations. We can take down with the drones about any target we want to. So we have all the physical and human capability to put together a tactical plan, to take a strategic plan, but more to take down the cartels. But it takes people that are warriors, know how to conduct operations against enemies. The Sun Tzu's, they understand the principles of war, like Patton did, MacArthur, Eisenhower, Admiral Nimitz. Yep.
General Paul Vallely, I'd like to thank you for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. StandUpAmericaUS.org. StandUpAmericaUS.org, folks, is where you go to every day. Folks, you're listening to Operation Freedom. I'm Dr. Dave Janda, broadcasting from our ancillary bunker. We're here for every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern, 24/7 at DaveJanda.com. Until next week, thanks for being with us today. Dream big and dare to fail. Talk to you soon. We're up and going in 1 second at DaveJanda.com.